Wait, you mean we don't get to just sit at the bar? What?
All right, hold on. Which panel is this? War stories? Okay, that's what I thought.
I was gonna say, dude, I mean, they just pay for us to come up here and say whatever. You could be talking about what you found at Walmart the other day and it'd still be a panel.
That's called a charity performance.
Oh.
This is what I think it is? Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's a...
It's a local winery in northern Wisconsin.
Oh, this is local?
Yes, northwest Wisconsin.
Ooh.
What is it? St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's okay. I walk on the wrong time.
Thank you so much, dude.
A well-balanced wine with just enough sweetness and a clean finish. What the? That's not wine.
It's a type of wine.
Tequila El Mayor. It's a strange-shaped bottle.
Yeah, it's set. You know, I just realized that tequila is the same color as the Riesling you're drinking. Don't. Just don't. Just saying.
We're going to make a new Con War story.
Sit down, we're starting.
Actually, we are starting. Oh.
Hello, Mr. Busy. Hello.
No shit, there he was.
No shit, there.
I'm going to start.
With or without legal representation?
My legal representation is sitting to my right to give us the disclaimer. Oi! We need the disclaimer.
Oh, disclaimer.
We need the disclaimer.
The insurance disclaimer or the legal one?
Anything I say is not the etc., etc.
Anthrocon Incorporated would like to remind you that it takes no responsibility or liability for anything Dr. Conway may or may not say during the pendency of this panel. He shall not be considered a representative of Anthrocon Incorporated during the pendency of this panel or any other panels at the FurSquared Convention. The Board of Directors of Anthrocon has not reviewed or endorsed any opinions expressed by Dr. Conway during this matter.
So let me give you an official story as to what happened at Anthrocon this year. Actually, no. This is not only a quasi-war story, but it's also a public service announcement. For those of you who might have seen my badge name, I did it on purpose. When you go to our registration site, what you put in for your badge name is what's going to print out on the badge. Human beings are not looking at it. The computer is printing it on the badge. This year we had 37 people whose badge name was same as last year. And 3 people whose name was some iteration of, can I have special characters? That's your badge name. So my badge name in honor of that is same as last year. By the way, sitting on my left, this is Ronnie, ladies and gentlemen. He is one of the people that makes Vernal Equinox happen up in the frozen wastelands of Toronto, Ontario, Germany, or whatever that place is.
Yay, Ronnie!
That's Alkali, y'all know him.
I work here.
That may or may not be Boozy Badger, depending. There is no claim made, no express guarantee or warranty made. He is not a guarantor, or etc., etc.
You don't know what any of those words mean, do you?
I read it on something.
Okay.
Oh wait, Anthrocon's contract with the hotel. That's where I read it.
So if you don't know who some of these people are, Boozy, what con do you chair?
I wouldn't call it a convention, really.
Yet.
I would. I filed paperwork. What con do you chair?
It's more like an experience.
An experience that has paperwork filed making it a con. What con do you chair?
Basement con.
That's better.
When did you file paperwork?
Like 2 weeks ago. I haven't got it back
Really?
yet. Yep.
Oh, God damn it!
I need to get insurance. What do you want?
Boozy, I have seen it. This guy can sign your signature better than you can.
Dude, you filed insurance for Basement Con and not FurSquared?
Well, to be
Don't
fair,
tell them that!
but what I loved was he actually sent me a message a few weeks ago. He goes, "Do we need insurance this year?" And my response was, "I don't think so. It's only a small lodge, and we have enough people that we're making some of them sleep in a field in tents." So he goes, "Okay." Now he's getting insurance, which makes me worried.
I would like to remind you, hold on, I'm not going to answer my own question. Hey, Boozy, before you say we don't need insurance, could you describe the main sitting room of the lodge?
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps some of the accoutrements on the wall?
Yeah, like there's a lot of weapons in the lodge. Like
A lot?
I'd say that, and like people are like, oh, you mean like fake muskets? And I'm like, no, there's like axes all over the place and knives. Like we had 2 rusty circular saw blades from a timber mill just sitting outside, and they're sharp.
Does this take place in a cabin in the woods?
Yes, it does. Like people saw the saw blades, they're like, hey, Frisbee. Like somebody took an axe down for a bit, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh no, that has an edge on it. That's a real axe.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, like plus there's the fire pits.
The fire pits are nice.
The well doesn't have a cover on it, and it's certainly within falling range.
And you bring your children.
The owner of the lodge, when we showed up, was there fixing a problem, and he said, so while you're here this weekend, a couple things. Don't go too far to the right when you walk out the back door. There's a pond there, and we don't want anyone drowning in it. And he goes, and don't go too far to the left. If you go too far to the left, you're going to come across a cow pasture, because we raise meat here as well. And while there's just cows in it now, that fence is electrified, and you got a real faraway look in his eyes, like, it kicks really hard. I looked at Alcala, I'm like, do you think he touched the fence? I was like, he definitely touched the fence.
On the electric fence.
It was actually a really fun year at Basement Con because you gave me one of my strangest experiences. It is a cabin in the woods. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. And in fact, one of the pits is just backed up against some very tall grass. Behind that is a little ravine, and behind that is the road. And we're sitting
what's
there.
on the other side of the road?
The other side, what was that?
New York.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes.
like no lie. You get there, it's like, we're in Pennsylvania. Well, it says New York on there. No, New York's on the other side of the dirt road that leads to the cabin.
Yeah.
I'm going to point out, I've never been invited to be a guest at...
Actually, that's not true.
It is not true.
What, was I invited?
You.
Did anybody tell me I was invited?
Nope.
That's not how...
We just kind of assumed you'd show up.
Yeah, that's not how it
we
works.
We had guts for you.
I kind of have to know
Have
where...
you not looked at the Twitter? I mean, like, the con openly advertises itself as the worst con ever. I mean,
I thought that was...
You have been invited. Nicolas Cage has been invited.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I thought that was for Nicolas Cage.
It's less of an invitation and more of a kidnapping at this point. So.
I have not been, but I have heard the most astonishing story because it is a story that defines for me the Badger family. Apparently Giza, who is one of Anthrocon's long-standing pillars, was at Basement Con, and he was tasked with building a fire in one of the fire pits, and Boozy's very, very charming, precocious, and adorable little tiny daughter was standing nearby watching him. And Giza said something to the effect of, little girl, would you get some firewood for me? And she shouted, child labor is real, and ran away.
I want to point out that Giza's not just an attendee. Giza is now our Minister of Finance. Oh, no, not by technology. He is our Minister of Technology. By the way, just to give you an idea of how Basement Con works, like, I made a joke about creating the worst furry convention ever. So we rented a cabin in the woods that has no phone, no Wi-Fi service, no cell phone service, and no television or satellite service. It is the worst place in the world. And then we made Giza Minister of Technology. He's like, what does my job entail? We're like, figuring out how to get a phone or Wi-Fi service or something.
So you're telling me you made the guy that has a smartphone in both of his hands at any given moment, and you made him the Minister of Technology, and you put him in the middle of technology-free land.
He had to build a fire. That's the level of technology that they've got.
No, he's banned from building fires now.
Never again. Never again.
Yeah, he can build a server, just don't have him build a fire.
No, you don't understand. There's 2 fire pits. There's a big bonfire pit in the back towards the edge of the property, and then there's the one right by the lodge, the cabin.
He mixed them up, didn't he?
It's like 1 foot tall in the stone circle, and when you build a fire in one of those fire pits, you're really not supposed to build it too far above the stone circle because that's the safety thing, right? It was like taller than Alkali. when I walked out, like just flames in the air, like Giza's got like blood under his eyes. He's holding a conch shell and a pig head.
So he got promoted from the Minister of Technology to the Minister of Satan, is what you're saying.
So he got banned. Like we had the Cabinet of Ministers meeting on the last day, Basement Gun, and we all voted to ban Giza from fire.
Kick him off the island.
So you're saying this was the worst con ever?
Yeah.
I was invited to a convention.
Oh dear.
Now, okay, we're not going to mention any names, not going to mention locations because
You'll know.
there are people who mean well and people who know what they're doing. They're not necessarily the same people. I was invited to a first-year convention. It is a first-year convention held in a city that 98% of you have never heard of, barely has an airstrip, let alone an airport, is located in the middle of the middle. And
A state.
a state. And I was invited to be a guest. I'm like, okay, sure, yay, not a problem. So time went by, and I was looking to get some information from them. Got to pull up the email. I eventually went and looked at their website, and I was rather horrified to see that they had invited 7 guests of honor for this first-year convention, which is held in the middle of that nobody had ever heard of. 2 of them were coming internationally. And I thought, they're going to freaking lose their shirts. Now, I had bought my own plane ticket expecting to be reimbursed.
How'd that go?
We're waiting. We're waiting.
You were warned.
And I knew that things were going to be interesting on Thursday of the convention. And official Twitter went out saying, we might not be having some of the events in the rooms that we had announced, but there will be a convention. A month before the convention, I sent an email, having heard silence. We're now less than 4 weeks out. There is still no mention of me on your webpage. I've not gotten the money for the plane ticket. There's no confirmation of a hotel room. There's been no communication. Are you certain you still want me to go? I received a reply. Alkali, kindly read the reply.
Yep.
That's it, in its entirety. I am certain I will be getting my reimbursement any day now.
I want to point out, I warned you.
You didn't warn me. You did not warn me.
This man sent me an email that read the name of an organizer and said, have you ever heard of this person? And by the way, I should point out, lawyers are terrifying because we have access to court systems that you will never know about. I may or may not have responded, oh, I don't know him, but if it's the same person with this name from this county in this state with the same birth date, between 5 people, he couldn't come up with $158 to avoid being evicted.
Okay, that was not a warning. You did not specify.
That's a pretty clear warning.
You gave me a statement. You did not specify this is a warning. Therefore, I was not aware that you intended it to serve as a warning.
You're like the kid who has to be told the stove is hot, followed up with, don't touch it.
Child labor is real. I will point out that the morning after I arrived at this unnamed convention, I went down to convention operations to kind of, roll up my sleeves and say, okay, dude, look. If I'm a guest, you kind of have to, blah, blah, etc., the whole spiel. I went storming into convention operations. I said, now see here. And the room was empty. The door was standing wide open. There was nobody in it. There was a cash box sitting on the table. I thought, oh, look, my reimbursement. Right next to it was a big glass bowl filled with cash that said charity. And experimentally, I picked that up and walked out of the room and kind of wandered around the empty lobby for a while. Then instincts kicked in, and I went back in and I sat it down and I ran their goddamn operations for them for an hour. When they finally showed up, there was the chairman. I was like, ah. So I went to the chairman. I said, excuse me, I brought along the receipt for my travel expenses. And he took it and said, oh, great, thanks. Picked up the cash box and walked out. This is not yet a Doug O story. This story is not finished. We're going to see where it goes.
I want to point out that during this entire experience, he spent the weekend sending messages and pictures and updates of
I was live tweeting to this whole group up here.
Like sending it to us. And Alkali and I had a little side conversation like, have you seen what's going on with Sam? We're like, isn't it fucking hilarious?
It's hilarious because it's not us. Right?
Misery loves company, especially when we can watch you bitch about it on Twitter.
Speaking of misery, Mr. Ronnie.
Yes?
Oh, hold on. One more introduction.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, our fifth panelist, give it up for your contract, Travis!
At first I thought it said fifth columnist.
Speaking of misery, we just had one of our most miserable attendees right now, Mr. Oh, suddenly this convention is now mine. How are you doing so far with this convention?
So I've been going back and forth. What's the story I'm going to share up here before I have to go put out more fires? And by pulling off the hat, let's get ahead of this. Let's talk about why this happened, shall we?
He got in my way.
No.
Way or pan?
I would have been kicked by you. This is like from... Okay, so a lot of work goes into conventions, and one of the last things I did, I follow 621. I'm like, okay, I've got 5 days before I have to go to the con. I'm going to go grocery shopping. And I'm going to get all of my at-con supplies, so all my snack bars, all my drinks and everything, all my silly gags and things that are going to hopefully come to fruition this weekend. And I'm a bit of an idiot, like a lot of people are. I like to do the one-trip rule. I go from the car to home with the groceries in one trip. And part of this is the maneuver. I have a hatchback, and I know my proportions, and I know the hatch proportions. And it's the maneuver. It's fine, right? It's fine, but we're in winter. We're in winter in the Midwest, and things get cold. And what happens when things get very, very, very cold? You know those things, those tubes that hold up the hatch? I don't know what they're called. Come on, engineer boy, help me out. What?
Hydraulic.
The hydraulic thingies
right.
that hold up the hatch. Well, it was cold. And it was cold enough that I did not notice
Okay,
they were
guys, you know
operating
this happens when it's cold, right?
at 100% capacity. They were slightly reduced, but not enough to notice. Well, we all notice now, huh?
That's going to scar, man.
Probably. So here's what happened. It was a few inches lower than I thought. I went to do the maneuver, and wham! And it echoed down my street, and there were passers-by, and they turned and stopped.
When you hit something hollow, that happens.
Did he set himself up for that or what? Dude! Sorry! I had to.
So I have done that. They have stopped and are staring just because of the noise, and I think no one asked me what was going on because wounded ego mode, more than wounded head mode, had kicked in. I'm like, nope, I'm not on the ground, we're just gonna... Groceries, just go in. I make no noise until I am safely upstairs, in my condo, door closed, groceries down. Expletive, 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 expletive. And then I go down the hallway and I am standing in front of the bathroom and I am worried. I have not seen it yet. And I go and look. Oh, this is nothing in comparison. I go and I take ibuprofen. I go and get the ice pack. I go and sit down. And I go and tell Alkali something. Alkali, I have used up our one pre-con injury. You see, every year...
Don't tell them about this!
No, we're not going to tell everyone. You can share those, but every year, without fail, the last 6 years, sometime in less than a week out before the con, he hurts himself. Varying degrees of bad. And so here I go, whoop, bam. He's like, what did you do? And I just send him a picture. He's like,
sorry,
oh my.
No, you tell them what picture you sent me, asshole.
Can we put it? Wait.
No, we cannot.
Can we?
No.
Oh, it's that. Oh.
Well, okay, there were a couple pictures. One was just the damage and it looked pretty gruesome. And then the other one was, nah, it's okay. I'm balancing an ice pack on my head right now. And he goes, picture it didn't happen. And in like sub 30 seconds, there I am at my desk. Selfie. Ice pack balancing.
Oh, and the grumpiest look.
Oh, I am.
But that's not the first one. The first picture he sent me is, and if you don't know this, head wounds bleed a lot. Yeah. I thought like, oh good, he's been murdered. But it's Dragor, so he's still texting.
Okay, I didn't understand how much that worried you because of the hair that hasn't run out yet, I shave it. And I shave in the shower. And I just use a standard 2-blade disposable razor. And I can't tell when I nick things up until one of two things. I get out of the shower and my white towel is not white anymore. Or I'm like, why is my head warm? The faucet isn't that. Like, what's going on? And just covered in blood. And what is the source? What is the source of all of that blood? A 0.5 millimeter square nick right here from a blade produced gore. It was the tiniest little thing. I didn't need a bandage or anything, just pressure. So I'm used to that. Alkali isn't. Alkali does not like blood, actually.
I'm just gonna be honest. I saw that on your head, and I thought you were trying to complete the dickhead look and just mixed up vertical and horizontal.
He was completing the whole Jewish thing.
Attempted to.
He hired a boil as a barber.
So I really, really hope if there is a mark, it works. Otherwise, I get additional marks of shame to remind me, mind your surroundings.
Thank you for injuring yourself for the convention.
Alkali. Dragor intimated that it's normally you getting injured.
Yeah.
Have you any memorable instances?
Literally packing up to come here in year 4, Dragor realized he left something in the house, stopped suddenly, and I rolled my ankle off my back porch. That was literally the Wednesday of the convention. I have fallen down 3 stairs going into my basement to do laundry 2 days out from the convention, but my absolute favorite was reaching into the box to get your wine bottles to deliver them to your room.
Here comes the guilt trip.
Oh, no. I still gave you the wine, and this might explain the little red stains. I had broken one of the bottles, cut my hand pretty bad, stayed in the room for a few hours. This is at con. Sent Xander out to replace the wine bottles. So for the whole convention, me and Kage are drinking out of these bottles that have been wiped down lovingly. But yeah, enjoy that knowledge and now understand why you took home 6 of the exact same bottles, because that's why I needed to send them out to get more. I sliced my hand open so bad on that shit.
Okay, I never knew that. I feel very badly. I also feel very badly when I first saw the box. I was like, son of a bitch knows I don't like red wine.
That was good.
But this is about conventions. Mr. Ronnie.
Hi.
It's very important that you agree with your hotel that the former group will be gone when your group shows up, right? Tell us a story.
In a perfect world, which of course we all live in now that we're at a FurryCon.
Namely Canada.
Namely Canada, except, you know, it's far from perfect apparently right now. In a perfect world, when your group checks into a hotel, you have the hotel room that you ordered. You know, when you have a furry convention, you tell the hotel, okay, our guys are going to come in at this date, they're going to arrive at this time, they're going to come in this number. We're going to need this many rooms, they've already booked these rooms, they've paid your one-night deposit, everything's all dandy. And the hotel tells you, okay, everything's going to be there for you, no problem. let's fast forward to this timeline where it's suddenly not a perfect world, and you've got a convention of professional MDs and PhDs and people that basically think that everyone else is beneath them because they have more letters in front of their name.
I've got more letters than
After
I've got more letters than most people in this room.
No! Also, you have more letters before, too, Samuel. I'm damn it. You win.
Alphabets are apparently for people with the smarts, so that also goes the same with hotel rooms. When our convention came in 2018 to the current location, which is a very lovely Westin hotel, apparently...
Unnamed hotel.
Unnamed hotel named the Westin. We came across such a group that apparently they had no interest in leaving because they simply didn't want to. This was not exactly the plan because, as we all know, conventions go all according to plan. Because we suddenly... Apparently not one of you guys, but we were basically left with about a refugee camp-sized worth of people sitting in the lobby for a good portion of the day because the hotel forgot that we had, about 2,000 people in giant animal costumes that wanted to pay them money. And the hotel then just looked at all of these people and said, well, we don't know what we're going to do with you guys, so we guess you guys can just have your convention in the lobby. Well, furries are a group that's basically known for improvising. I mean, we're good at taking a hotel lobby and making something out of nothing.
Namely a Calcutta slum.
Basically a Calcutta slum. So we decided that, we were just going to set up our own DJ booth and our own little artist alley and our own little, what we call a little nap zone in the hotel lobby. So I'm basically blissfully unaware of all this because I'm running around trying to solve the other 99 fires happening. But then when I walk in the hotel lobby on this Thursday afternoon, blissfully unaware that we had no rooms because, again, hotels are like that, I walk upon what I can only describe as the frosh week of my local university. Welcome everyone that had basically been rendered homeless because they didn't have a room ready. DJ party, artist alley, let's all trade for affinity profile extravaganza in the middle of the lobby, and the hotel manager standing there looking around, completely baffled because I had promised him a week before that we weren't absolute hooligans. When you make a hotel manager a promise like that, and the first thing that he sees from your group is a literal camp of people in the lobby, set up like they're about to stay there for the rest of the night, it don't really do too well for your hotel relationships.
Excuse me.
Yes?
He also had a promise to you that he broke. All bets are off now.
Oh, that was the beautiful part was the contract talks afterwards basically guaranteed we'd have the rooms, but part of that was also the fact that we had an agreement with the food and beverage people about, providing a furry themed menu. This was the very first year that we also wanted to work in terms of having a furry-themed menu with the hotel restaurant. We had a very overzealous food and beverage manager who basically said, no problem, we know you guys are furries. We understand what furries like. And apparently they wanted to do their own research into what furries like.
That's the proper reaction.
I want to, before he continues, if you look at the stage right now, you'll notice everyone up here except Ronnie is doing their version of the chairman fingers.
Wait. So my version is answering Reg's questions. I gotta go.
Gregor, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
So while Dragger actually goes out and saves the convention, I'll tell you what nearly ruined mine. So, as we were saying, this hotel food and banquet manager was also happy to go out and say, oh, we have our own people doing our research. We're going to come up with the best menu ever, the best ever. There's no menu quite like this menu with hand motions and everything. the day of the convention, when it arrived, I had gone to the bar for, a little pre-convention warm-up. And I just happened to look at one of these menus because I hadn't seen them before. I was just, I was little naive me, just like, oh, the hotel is so nice to us. They're planning to make these little cute convention menus. So I grabbed one of these menus. It's like a little table card like you'd see at a bar. And I started reading down the list. And it started out pretty much, regular. It said chorizo nachos and, these cute little fries. Big Bad Wolf Wings. Hold on, Big Bad Wolf Wings.
May I?
What did the Big Bad Wolf Wings entail?
Bring out the savage animal inside of you and just devour the meat off these succulent bones like no tomorrow.
Next one.
The next one I went down the list and it just got better from there. The Big Super Juicy Brioche Burger.
Prepare your jaw for a mouthful and be sure to release the beast inside of you before sinking your fangs into this juicy, succulent paw-erful. Seriously? He really? Something us humans call hamburger. Topped with cheddar, garlic, jam, garlic, mayo, lettuce. They are horrible at this.
Boozy, would you read the next one? The cute little pink Pomeranian?
Oh yeah, appropriate for Boozy Badger.
We need the right voice.
The cute little pink Pomeranian. Have fun with this small, petite, cute, little pink Pomeranian. Then it goes into the description of the alcohol, but it's just that is what, have fun with this small...
Yeah. But if Pomeranians aren't your thing...
Oh, God damn it!
This is real?
But this was a real menu that a hotel had created for the convention.
Mr. Badger, would
The
you?
Big Bad Greyhound. If Pomeranians aren't your thing, maybe you're more of a strong, fierce greyhound. The Salted Dog.
If you're not into big bad greyhounds, would you care to do the honors, Mr. Lawyer?
Wrap your lips around this bad boy. Roar.
Spelled with all caps,
4 A's.
Rar. As I was reading down this list and I thought that I needed an exorcism for my eyeballs.
Actually, Mr. Ronnie, may we have a dramatic recreation of your reaction upon seeing this?
We're going to pull one from the vault, and this is actually before I started working with the furry fandom. I was doing things for...
Just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No worries. No, but as I was going down that list, and all of my colleagues up here have basically made the same reactions I did, I thought to myself, well, what's the worst that could possibly happen? I made the fundamental mistake of asking myself, what could possibly be worse than this? And then I got to the frozen funky monkey. Kage, I think you're the one that should read this.
This is going at all.
Uh-oh.
$15? I'm out.
The frozen funky monkey. Get your freak on. The second this delicious cocktail slides down your furry throat, we dip the rim with honey syrup to get your paws sticky, so no touchy, only sippy. Then we firmly press shredded coconut against the super sticky honey rim. We haven't even got to the good stuff yet. 1 ounce ounce Malibu, half-ounce banana liqueur, etc., blended, etc., served in a rock glass and garnished with 2 dehydrated monkey balls.
You know what my reaction was when I saw the little old nice lady pick up the Fernal Equinox menu and read that? Yeah, apparently at Fernal Equinox we like serving monkey balls and big bad greyhounds.
I'm sorry, you
Come to our convention,
No
please.
reason to apologize. I worked for a general gaming convention, which will be unnamed at this point, as a liaison when I was much younger. And I was contacted by the hotel in a similar fashion. They said, well, we would like to have what you call Romulan ale. And I said, sir, Romulan ale is no recipe. A traditional Romulan ale in the gaming fandom is any 5 alcohols, all of which must have an APV above 40%, and then at the end needs to be turned blue. Bear in mind, blue, help me with this word, curacao? Curacao? Blue curacao is not applicable in traditional Romulan ale. And they wanted to serve this at their bar at a gaming convention. Now, you also run gaming conventions. How do you think the attendees are going to react when they go to the bar and see Romulan ale, something they know is going to knock them on their ass, and they get blue curacao and Sprite? Well, that got changed immediately, and hands down, over the years, you find, we're making fun of this thing, but Ronnie, in the end, what did you tell the hotel? What happened? What happened with this menu?
Get off my fur affinity.
But I was there when he got the response from the hotel manager. The hotel manager came up and very earnestly said, "Sorry, buddy."
Exactly. We're going to talk to the hotel. We're going to have communication. We're going to have dialogue, and everything is going to be fixed. And that's what we do as organizers. And I will forever remember what the woman did behind that bar. I explained to her why that wouldn't work. She goes, I understand your concerns, and writes in with a Sharpie plus Bacardi 151. All right, Romulan ale it is then.
Lucy, you've been in this fandom now and have been assisting to a tremendous degree with a number of conventions. Surely there is something that confidentiality agreements do not cover.
Is anybody from the hotel in this room?
No.
You have to tell us if you are.
Like honestly, look back at it's like the police. If you're a cop, you have to tell me.
Okay, I totally thought you two were from the
They're leaving. Notice. Okay.
How good is the audio? Out of curiosity. Somebody poke their head outside.
Oh my God!
And make sure there's no one in the hall from the hotel.
Seal the door.
No.
2 years ago, I came home from FurSquared and I got a message from Alkali. And it read, dude, do you have a minute to read something? And I read it. And I said, okay. It was the hotel requesting a meeting. I said, what's going on? He said, we had some incidents. And we're going to have a meeting with the hotel to discuss the contract. And I would like if you came out. I said, sure. What incidents? He said, I need you to agree first. I said, okay. I got a copy of 2 documents from him after I agreed to come out here and assist in the meeting with the hotel. One was the Dorsai log from FurSquared weekend. You all are fucking weird. The other was the hotel's log giving the version of FurSquared weekend. The accounts were wildly dissimilar is an easy way to put it. For instance, things that appeared on the hotel log were reports of things like walking through the floor and finding a door open with a gentleman on the bed and 10 people wearing strap-ons running a train.
With an open door.
That sounds perfectly believable to me. I'm sorry.
With an open door. Things like people breaking into rooms under renovation.
No. Strap-ons are okay. Do not go into the rooms under renovation. You people are crazy.
And my personal favorite, a report that on Saturday evening in the lobby, that on Sunday morning, someone reported to the desk manager that on Saturday evening in the lobby, 2 furries were engaged in an activity as a group of people gathered around them and chanted, "Eat the meat, eat the meat, eat the meat."
I mean, the hotel has pretty good barbecue at the bar, so...
Now, please allow me to show how I respond. I said most of these can be overcome because there is nothing cooperating in the Dorsai logs, and almost everyone begins with "someone reported." I fly out to Chicago. This gentleman and I have dinner. The next day, I pile into a car with Alkali, John the Viking, and your current con-chair Dragor to drive up here to meet with the hotel. At issue is the contract for FurSquared 2018 and 19. On the drive up, I am going over how these tend to work. I do contract negotiations on a fairly regular basis, and I'm going over how these tend to work. And I said, the way we approach this is the fact they have no cooperating evidence for most of this, that it is all secondhand reports from people to the front desk, that there's really no employee reports either, it's other guests. And that there was a guest that there had been, or a group that there had been some issues with sharing the hotel that year. That's how we attack it. I said the second way we attack it is how ridiculous some of this sounds. For instance, the gentleman with the train being run on him. They're stating that there were strap-ons, but why would 10 guys need strap-ons to run a train? To which your con-chair said, well, bad dragon wearables, and I said, maybe you don't talk during the meeting. So we got here, we sat down to meet with the hotel. And the hotel was myself, it was you, it was we had a representative, because they had things saying, well, the Dorsai isn't a real security group, it's just a bunch of weirdos in kilts. So I had said, let's get a representative from the Dorsai. So our Dorsai liaison had come up with a big binder about who the Dorsai are, what they do, how long they've been doing this, things like that, to kind of take care of that position. Dragor and Alkali, myself, and John and the Dorsai. And across from us is the food and beverage manager of the hotel and another person who's still with the hotel, whose opinion of us has changed significantly since then. For the better. They have a rather large binder. And they open the binder and they say, well, to begin with, we had some incidents with the rooms. And they're going through issues in the rooms with repair. And they said, and then there were the incidents in the lobby. And I let them go for about 2 to 3 minutes before I looked at them and said, well, I just have one question. What? Do you have any names or room numbers of the people who rented those rooms so we can confirm that they were part of the FurSquared group? And he said, well, no. I said, okay, so we're not going to consider that. And I said, how about the reports from the hotel log, which I've gone over? Do you have any that were actually witnessed by members of your staff, or are they all reports from these unnamed other guests? And he said, well, we don't have anything on our official sheets about it. I said, okay, so that's all hearsay, and we're not going to consider it. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, so that whole binder's worthless to us. Now let's talk about that lacrosse team.
You have never seen fear. You have never seen fear.
The best part was I said, frankly, a lot of this is rather ridiculous. I mean, look at this report, that there were 11 men in a room, and 10 of them were riding a train on somebody wearing strap-ons, and then I glared at Dragor to make sure he remembered. I said, this eat the meat thing. I said, are you telling me that 2 guys were in your lobby performing fellatio with a crowd chanting, eat the meat? and nobody saw it and said anything. You had to wait for someone to report it the next day. And he said, well, one of my bartenders saw it. Like, we were getting combative with the food and beverage. He's like, one of my bartenders saw it, and I trust him. I said, if one of your bartenders saw two guys blowing each other in the lobby and did something, didn't do anything, that sounds like a staff issue to me.
Was one of the two guys the bartender?
Now, I will say, who was at opening ceremonies? Raise your hand. Woo! You met the hotel, right?
Yep. Yeah.
How many of you recognized any of them?
I did notice you seem to have a new general manager.
We have new everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone always remember one thing. We put our best foot forward. If you do that, we'll take care of the rest. Especially this.
The one thing that I am most proud of that is we went in there with them wanting to renegotiate significant terms of the contract for the next 2 years. And we did. How much money did the contract save?
According to my calculations, your meeting and just you saved us $13,000 for 2018 and 19.
They came in to renegotiate the contract. We got a better deal.
And you paid him a bottle of bourbon.
He took me to Fogo de Chao, where we sat at the table, and as the food started to be delivered, the four of us looked at each other and started saying, "Eat the meat, eat the meat."
Of course. No, I really don't.
Yes, it is very, very fortunate that furry fandom has adopted a very, very talented man of law.
You've never seen anything like watching this man work.
Incidentally, Boozy, how many letters do you have after your name?
None.
Aren't you like a BM?
He's GD.
I'm a JD, but only assholes append JD to the end of their title.
Moving right along.
Yeah.
Okay, the point I was going to make is I have a thing with medical doctors. I got a PhD. They got MD. I have 50% more letters. So okay, does anybody here read Doc Rat? Yes, Doc Rat, the Australian physician who is also a very, very talented furry cartoonist. He does a furry comic strip, docrat.com.aw. I met Doc Rat and I said, so let's just establish that I do indeed have more letters than you. He gave me his business card. The son of a bitch has 27 letters after his name. And there's only 26 in the English language. He made one up. He's a fellow of the Royal Australian Academy of People Who Do Medicine and had cards. His business card has like a little slider that you pull out with all the letters on it. My day is ruined. You guys say something.
We had an unexpected guest at Basement Con.
We did!
The raccoon?
We had several unexpected guests at Basement. Let me describe how this went. We were choosing a location, and I literally said, what's the most remote cabin we can find that can fit about 30 people? We got out there. We are there for the first day. I am over by the fire pit. I'm sitting there. I'm relaxing. Somebody comes out with a jar. They walk over and they release it into the garden, whatever it is. And I say, what was in the jar? And everyone goes quiet and says, nothing. And I go, okay, it was definitely something, was it? We were told not to say. Please allow me to let you know that I have one massive phobia. I am scared to death of snakes. I know it is irrational. I know the vast majority are fine. But I've had this phobia since I am a small child. So I looked at them and I said, who told you not to say anything? They said, your spouse. And I go, where was the snake? In the garden. I'm like, no, it was not in the garden because you came out of the lodge with it. There was a snake in the shower.
Wouldn't be using that shower.
We then found bees.
What?
I'm not sure how. When we turned around, there was a bee in the lodge. We had somebody who was deathly allergic to bees. We captured the bee and let it out the back door, closed the back door, turned around, and then there were 2 bees. We don't know where the bees came from, but after about 12, we stopped releasing them because it was like every time we took a bee out, 2 more popped up.
They don't die, they multiply.
The bee hydra.
It became BeastmanCon.
We have 1 minute left, fellas. No, that's the countdown timer.
Oh.
Kage, you never finished your story.
Thank you.
What story?
The one about the really, really crappy con.
The really bad con.
Didn't I finish it?
No. You said you
Oh,
were
that's
done.
because the story isn't finished yet.
Oh, it's actually ongoing, yeah. We have a rule of 2 years, and he broke it.
This was 6 weeks. This was a short period of
But the best unannounced visitor we had at BasementCon, Sunday morning we are sitting in the lodge, we are eating breakfast, because BasementCon is complimentary breakfast still. Fuck you, FurSquared. So there we are, eating breakfast. Now we are in the middle of nowhere. The door to the lodge opened. A blonde older woman walked in wearing heels, stood in the middle of it, looked around and said, "Could somebody show me the rooms?" And we looked at her and said, "Who the hell are you?" And she looked around again and noticed that we had put Xander's fursuit head on top of the deer head on the wall. Because at some point we decided Xandeer should be a thing. And she said, "What's going on here?" And we said, "A furry convention." And she said, "Well, can I talk to the chef?" And we said, "What fucking chef?" And she looked at us, turned around, walked out of the lodge, climbed into the Range Rover out front that none of us had seen pull off, and drove off into the fucking night. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God. It doesn't matter how far you move a furry convention out of the city, at some point, a random normie is going to walk in and wonder what the fuck's going on. Like, I'm convinced the Karen signal went up. And she was like sitting at home going, "I must go to a hotel or lodge and investigate." It just got in the car and drove. There was no explanation. Somebody came in and took the couch. He said he was an employee of the lodge. We don't know whether he is or not, but we helped him put it in the trailer.
Hey, guess what you're an accessory to?
So many things. But that's why your name's on the rental contract.
He can sign your name better than you can. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't go to the full hour because there has to be turnover in the room and everything. The countdown timer has now given us a nasty note, so I think our time is done. We hope you've enjoyed this little insight into what it is like to run one of these nasty things. The gentleman on the end, that is the boozy barrister of BasementCon. This is Alkali Bismuth of every other convention that isn't Anthrocon. This is Mr. Ronnie of Sourier.
Yeah, something like that.
And ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for a person, and since we have enough time, I can do this. A long time ago, the furry fandom, if you asked a non-furry, would have immediately been spouted out by, "Oh yes, I saw that episode of CIS." I was close. They would talk about the MTV special, they would talk about the little blurbs they had seen online, and then came this gentleman. This gentleman is the reason that the furry fandom started to go into a positive light from the bottom of my heart and the entire fandom, from FurSquared and every other nonsense convention that we have been a part of. Thank you for painting the light and giving us the road to basically what we've accomplished now. You're the best man.
Yeah, very well. Folks, hang out in here in about 8 minutes. We're going to start Three-Headed Monster with 2 funny guys and a fat guy.
And I don't get to see it because I got a panel.
Three-headed? Want to go three? I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much and good night!
Man, he bought me a coffee. Silver Gato Man, here is the song for thee. He likes to video all the panels at the cons. You should go and watch them whether they are short or long. Silver Gato Man, you video that's not a jibe. All of you go to his YouTube channel and like and subscribe.